What's going on, Beta? My name is R4EZG3AR. I'm here to bring you an OU match against someone by the name of Dean Blaid. I found this guy in Pokemon Wi-Fi Battle Finder, and I thought it was a pretty interesting match, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. So I'm going to be using Sam with Paladin because I like a Paladin more than T-Tar. He's actually going to be using a Rain team. I'm going to be leading off with my Virizion, thinking he might want to lead up with his Politoed. Likewise, he's going to lead up with his Ferrothorn, thinking I'm going to lead up with my Paladin. So let's get right into the match. So, like I said, he's going to lead up with his Ferrothorn, I'm going to lead up my Virizion. Now, this Virizion can't really do a whole lot to this Ferrothorn because my only tech move is Giga Train. This is a dual screening variant. So I'm going to go for the taunt just so I can stop this thing from setting up any entry hazards. But he's actually going to go for the T-Wave, which works just as well. So, thinking that he might want to go for a physically attacking move, I'm going to set up the Reflect, but he's actually going to switch into his Metagross. Now, I don't want to take a hit from this Metagross, even though I have the Reflect up, so I'm going to go into the thing that probably could take it the best, which is going to be my physically defensive Paladin. As he's actually going to go for the Meteor Mash, and thanks to Reflect, it doesn't really do a whole lot to this Paladin. So, knowing that he can't one-hit KO me with Mash, he's actually going to switch out, not wanting to take an Earthquake also. He's going to go into his Politoed, going to get up the Rain, and this EQ is going to do a little bit over half, which I'm pretty happy about. So, I don't want to take a Water move, Rain boosted move, whatever, from this Politoed, so that's why I'm going to go into my Vaporeon, but he's actually going to go for the Hidden Power Grass, which is a good play on his part. Now, I don't see any leftovers whatsoever, so it's definitely not a bulky defensive Politoed, so it's got to be an offensive Toad. But just to make sure, I'm going to go for the Protect just in case he might be running some weird Expert Belt set. But he's actually going to go into his Tentacruel, probably predicting me to go for the Protect. He's going to set up one layer of Toxic Spikes, which I'm not too mad about because more than half of the Pokemon on my team is immune to Toxic Spikes. So, I'm going to set up the Wish. I'm going to go into my Reuniclus because I find that this is my opportunity to set up the Trick Room, and he's actually going to dump his second layer of Toxic Spikes. Now, knowing that he cannot one-hit KO me from any range with that Tentacruel, I'm actually going to set up the Trick Room right now as my Reflect ends. I'm going to go for the Focus Blast, and I'm actually going to get a crit on this Metagross, and this crit actually did matter because this Metagross is max HP. It also has a Choice Band and Adamant max attack, and that Meteor Mash would have had enough power to actually take on my Reuniclus. It was a little possible chance, though. So now that his Metagross is down, he's actually going to try to stall for Trick Room turns. He's first going to go into his Tentacruel, going to go for the Protect. Then he's going to go out into his Ferrothorn so he can sponge the Psycho Shock. And then he's going to go out into his Gengar so he can dodge the Focus Blast. So those last two turns, I didn't really want to, I just wanted to play it safe, basically. So, I know Gengar is a big threat to my team, so I'm hoping I can live a Shadow Ball from this Gengar because this thing does have some HP investment, and I'm going to counterattack it with a Side Shock, and that's two big threats out of the way, his Metagross and his Gengar, which I'm pretty happy about. So, I want to save this Reuniclus as Death Fodder for later, so I'm actually going to switch out, going to go into my Vaporeon so I can sponge whatever hit this Tentacruel wants to go for. I do carry Hydration on this Vaporeon just in case I run into Rain team just for that, so I don't run Water Absorb. So I'm actually going to set up the Wish as he's actually going to go out into his Ferrothorn, and I'm actually going to go into my Paladin just so I can take whatever hit that this Ferrothorn decides to go for, or if it wants to set up any entry hazards or go for that T-Wave again. But he's actually going to make a really good play. He's actually going to double switch out. I'm going to go into his Politoed as he's going to get up the Rain, and my Sand is now negated. So I do get my HP all the way back up thanks to the Wish. So I don't want to stay in again from taking a hit from this Politoed, so I'm going to actually go on the Virizion to take this Surf. Now that turn right there, it took me quite a while just to figure out which Pokemon I wanted to go into because this Politoed does have quite a bit of a huge move pool that can actually do a lot of damage to my Pokemon, so I thought he might want to go for the Surf. So that's why I go with my Virizion, so I can take the Surf. And he's actually going to switch out now and go into his Terrakion as I'm going to set the Reflect just in case he might want to go for a Surf again. So I don't want to take a hit from this Terrakion. So I'm going to go into my Paladin, going to sponge the Close Combat. So now with the -1 defense drop, I feel confident enough that I can actually go for the Earthquake and probably take this Terrakion out because I know Terrakion doesn't also really have a good defense stat whatsoever. So he doesn't want to take an EQ, so he's actually going to switch out. I'm going to go into his Ferrothorn to sponge that hit really, really well. So I'm thinking that this Ferrothorn might want to go for an attacking move because you can't really Thunder Wave my Paladin. So I'm actually going to go into my Heatran to sponge whatever hit this thing wants to go for. He's actually going to go for the Power Whip, which doesn't do a whole lot because I quad resisted. So now I'm actually going to go for the War, thinking he might want to go into a Pokemon that could actually take down or take on this Heatran, which he sent to his Tentacruel. I actually do roar him out and go into his Terrakion, which is a pretty bad matchup for me. So I'm actually going to go for Protect, as he's going to go for the close combat, just to scout. I just will go for Pick to scout what this thing wants to go for. So seeing this is my opportunity to actually use this thing as Death Fodder, I'm actually going to send in my Runicle to take the close combat. He's going to get used to the crit, and I get to say switch into my Scizor, which I can actually probably KO this thing. So I make a pretty big misplay. I thought he might want to switch out and go into something else, so I didn't go for the Bullet Punch. I actually went to go for the Superpower, thinking that he might want to switch out, like I said. But he actually stays in, going to go for the close combat. Thankfully, that HP investment I put into the Scizor actually has enough to actually take on the Terrakion's close combat. I think Bandit might would have taken it out. So the Scizor is not really going to be a whole lot useful because he's down to his last 3 guys, which is his Tentacruel, his Ferrothorn, and his Politoed. So my Scizor is not really going to do a whole lot, so I'm just going to leave this thing as Death Fodder. He's actually going to take me out with 2 skulls. I'm pretty thankful that he didn't burn me on the first skull, or else that Superpower wouldn't have done that much damage. So now, like I said, his last 3 guys are Tentacruel, Politoed, and his Ferrothorn. The biggest threat he has right now is his Politoed right now. So what I plan to do is I want to get this Tentacruel out of the way first because it can sponge my Heatran, which I need to actually take down that Ferrothorn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the Reflect. I'm going to try to get as much damage off on this Tentacruel as possible with my Virizion. Then I'm going to go into Hippowdon, try to take this thing out with an EQ, and hopefully if he switches in Ferrothorn, then I can go into my Heatran, force that thing out, go for the Toxic on the Politoed, and then just Protect Stall, just Toxic Stall that Politoed until it's dead. And once that thing's out of the way, I pretty much can go through the rest of his team, which would basically mean his Ferrothorn. So I'm going to put my plan into action, and I'm going to go for the EQ on the Tentacruel. He doesn't decide to switch out. I think he felt confident enough that he might take out my Powdon with the Scald, but thanks to the light screen, it doesn't take it out. I think I might have said Reflect a little while ago. I'm sorry if I did that, but it was the light screen. So I'm going to slack off so I can get some HP back up so I can take whatever hit that this Ferrothorn wants to go for. He's actually going to go for the Thunder Wave, predicting me to probably go out into my Heatran, which is a pretty good prediction. So now I'm going to stay and going to go for the Earthquake so I can get some damage on this thing. I'm actually just biding my time, waiting for a moment where I feel confident enough that I can actually switch out, go into my Heatran, and just get the force him out, then go for the Toxic. So I think I did make a misclick and I go for the Stealth Rocks, which actually will help out in the end, because if I get that Politoed Toxic and he tries to keep switching in and out, that Toxic and the Stealth Rock damage will just keep wearing that thing down until it's dead. So he's going to set up the Leaf Seed after I set up my Rocks. Now I'm going to go with my Vaporeon first because I thought he might want to go for the Thunder Wave, which he actually does, so that's a pretty good prediction on my part. So after this turn, I believe I'm just going to go straight out into my Heatran, just so I can force this thing out right now, which I actually do. I'm going to go to my Heatran, and he's actually going to go for the Power Whip, or is it the Leech Seed? No, he's going to go for the Power Whip, so that was a great play on my part, just so I can dodge that move. So he really has no other choice. He has to go into Politoed if he doesn't want to die from the Lava Plume. And I'm going to make the good play right here because I knew he wanted to switch out, and I'm going to go for the Toxic, and that's pretty much checkmate right there, because now I put Politoed on a timer. Consecutive damage will be put onto this thing now, so all I have to do is right now is just Toxic Stall this thing until it's dead. So it's pretty much the end of the match right there. It's just going to take a little while for this thing to go down. So go for the Protect on the first turn. I'm actually going to switch out, go back into my Vaporeon, so I can sponge the hit whatever this thing wants to go for. I also think I went there just so I can get rid of the poison or something like that, so I can make this thing survive a little bit more. He's actually going to go down to the Toxic on this turn, so now all he has left is Ferrothorn. All I have to do now is go into my Hippowdon so I can get rid of the Rain, and pretty much just take it out with a Lava Plume pretty much. So I'm going to go for the Ice Beam, just thinking that he might want to take me out this turn. But he's actually, instead of the Leaf Seed, he's going to get some health back. So I decided, like, okay, I'm not going to wait for this thing to actually take me out. I'm just going to go straight into my Hippowdon, get the sand up, and then just go straight out into my Heatran so I can just take this thing out. But he's going to go for the Leaf Seed again, which is kind of in vain because now that the sand's up, I don't really care if this thing gets Leaf Seeded, because, like I said, I'm just going to go into my Heatran and just finish off this thing. So I believe I'm just going to go right out into Heatran. I'm sorry if I'm kind of like repeating myself over and over again, but I should have sped this part up, honestly. I probably should have done that. Whatever. I don't know why I go for the EQ. I guess I just want this thing to die off so I can get a safe switch in. So I do. Oh, that's right, because this Ferrothorn still has T-Wave, and I didn't want this Ferrothorn to actually paralyze my Heatran. So that's why I'm staying with not Ferrothorn, my Heatran, so it can die. So now I come in and take this thing out with Lava Plume, and that was a good game. This is a really good game, Dean Blaid, and thanks for watching, guys.